I just remember you saying you don't need to study 4 or 5 hours a day in order for it to click. And that's what I was doing. I mean, I was beat by the end of the day. I didn't really have time for me and for things that I wanted to do. And I knew it wasn't sustainable.
Hmm.
And so I think the point I really took away was just reviewing what I had learned in the previous days. So yeah, I found that video helpful because nobody really sits down with you and is like, this is how you should study. I mean, it's so different from school. You're all on your own. There's no deadlines that anybody's giving you. It's a crazy process. And
Right. Welcome to another episode of the CPA Exam Experience podcast from SuperfastCPA. I'm Nate, and in today's interview, you're going to hear me talk with Brandon. So Brandon has a common story, like a lot of the other people you've heard on the podcast, where in some form, he was putting in a lot of work, took an exam, failed it, and just had the thought, if this is how this goes, I'm either, not going to do this, or I need to really change something because I put in so much work and I still failed the exam. And one key thing that he'll mention that I think a lot of people identify with is that he would spend a lot of time on one topic to get to the point that he felt like he really understood it. And then a few days later, but especially a couple weeks later, he would see problems on that topic, like in his final review, and just realize that he'd forgotten most of what he had spent so much time studying and learning so well, topic by topic along the way. Now, you'll hear him also mention our free training webinar. And so when he watched that, of course, one of our main strategies is weaving in re-review into your daily process so that all along the way, you're constantly re-hitting the things you've already been through so that instead of slowly forgetting all the stuff you studied a few days or a few weeks ago, you are getting better and better at all the topics as the weeks go by. So before we get into the interview, I want to mention two things. First, that free training, our free study training webinars. If you are new to Superfast CPA, or you've been listening to these and you're just at that point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to try something different. I'm going to see if this works for me. That's the place you should start. These are hour-long webinars where we walk through our core strategies so that you can both evaluate the ideas for yourself, see if it makes sense to you, and they will really help you realize maybe some of the mistakes you're making that you didn't realize you're making or that you don't realize you're making. So the second thing is our free podcast giveaway. So each month we give away 3 pairs of Powerbeat Pro headphones to 3 random people who have entered the giveaway. It's just your name and email. So the links to both the free training webinar and the free giveaway will be down in the description of this episode. So with that out of the way, let's get into the interview with Brandon. You're all done, right? You've passed all 4?
yeah, as of December 2022, I'm done.
That's right. Okay, so just recently. How's that feel?
Uh, Amazing. It's it's pretty hard to beat, actually. I think I mentioned it was a 3.5 year process. So it's yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's something you put in so much time. Once it's over, it's almost, I mean, it's not sad, of course, but yeah, just such a big time suck is just taken away. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'd say that's the biggest thing. Just I don't think I realized how much of a sacrifice it is. And I think that's why it took me 3.5 years to get it done. Um, but yeah, it's a time suck. I gotta say no to a lot of things. It's crazy, but I'm
Right.
glad it's done.
All right. Well, yeah. So have you listened to any of the other episodes? You kind of know how these go.
Yeah, I've listened to 2 or 3 of them, I think.
Okay. I mean, basically, we'll just start from the beginning of your whole process and like talk through, and I'll just ask questions, and that's pretty much it. So, going back to the beginning, when you started to study, what was that like? Did you just get a review course and jump into the lessons, or how'd the whole thing go from the beginning?
Yeah, so I got one of the big study courses. I think I had Wiley to start with. And I basically they have like a pretty good schedule and they kind of break everything out by blocks. And I was still in school at the time, getting my master's. And I mean I basically clicked on every block, went through everything it told me to go through. It was just information overload. And I was overwhelmed every day, but it felt nice because I was checking off a box basically.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I was getting any closer to my goal. And so I think the worst score I had was the first test I took, and that was far. But yeah, I mean, I started with Wiley, felt like how I was going about it wasn't working for me. And so I started to look for other options and alternatives out there to help things start clicking basically because I was struggling at the start.
And so, how long was that segment where you study for weeks or months, and then you start thinking, "Okay, something is like I got to change something because this isn't working."
Yeah, so I think I started August of 2019. I studied for 3 or 4 months maybe, and then I took the test in December. Didn't do well, was really discouraged because I put in, I think, over 200 hours for that test, like it recommended, and I was like, "Yeah, this sucks." Started getting down on myself, and then I think it might have been like, I think I saw one of your ads or something like that. Like, "Oh, I got nothing to lose, might as well check it out." So, I think I watched one of your intro podcasts or I don't remember what it was at the time, but I don't think it was long after that first test because like I said, I put in the time, but the results did not show. So it was pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
And then yeah, so on the little form you wrote, I was I think you said you watched our free webinar and it convinced you you'd been studying
Yeah.
wrong. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think I got the basic package at the time, started using the audio notes and that I mean, that just helped give me a bigger picture of what I was studying and kind of nail down some of the points because I think I'd become an expert in one section and then I'd forget it 2 weeks later. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, that doesn't help me at all. And so like just getting that full picture of what I'm studying and just getting that repeated over and over really helped me just kind of solidify things in my own brain.
Yeah. So if you remember from the free training, what were any of the ideas that, was like a big difference between what you were doing and that made sense? Okay, this is what I've got to do differently.
Oh, I just remember you saying, um, you don't need to study 4 or 5 hours a day in order for it to click, and that's what I was doing. I mean, I was beat by the end of the day. I didn't really have time for me and for things that I wanted to do, and I knew it wasn't sustainable, but I was like, "Oh, everybody goes through this," you know?
Hmm.
And so, I think the point I really took away was just reviewing what I had learned in the previous days. I don't remember exactly how you structured it, but it was something along the lines of study new material and then review for like an hour or 2 after that. And then
Yeah.
that helped with all the other subjects too going forward. It's like, "Oh, I see how this relates to this," and things just started clicking a lot better the more I started to do that. So yeah, I found that video helpful because nobody really sits down with you and is like, "This is how you should study." I mean, it's so different from school. You're all on your own. There's no deadlines that anybody's giving you. It's a crazy process, and
Right.
I I I went through it. So, but I did, but it was tough.
Yeah. 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 Just so basically, you're describing the idea of re-review, right? Just if you're going to
Mhm.
go through all these topics, part of your day should just be re-reviewing all the stuff you've been through. And yeah, I mean that's one of my first realizations when I took FAR the first time and realized that same thing sitting in the exam, that I went so deep on all these topics, and now a bunch of these pretty like simple questions I just can't remember. Um, and then yeah, the study tools make that really easy, like you said. If you just listen to the audio notes 30 to 60 minutes a day, read the review notes a few times a day, you can kind of hit all topics every 2 to 3 days just by using our study tools. So it sounds like that's how you used them.
Yeah, I mean, if I was on a road trip or something and I wasn't driving, I'd read through the notes, just because I wasn't gonna take the time to write out all of that myself, so it was a really
Hmm.
useful tool to have that. But, I mean, I'd listen to them working out, driving, doing stuff around the house, like, it was an easy, simple way to, yeah, just review constantly. So I found it really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as fun as like listening to music or the podcast you would choose to listen to, but it's a lot less painful than 4 to 5 hours of like the full study process every day.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you took FAR the first time, and then
Mhm.
that puts you about 5 or 6 months into your process. So, like, what happened after that?
So then, I work at a tax accounting firm. So we had tax season pretty much beginning January. And so I took a back seat a little bit to studying, and I had plans of starting back up, I think right after, so the week after April 15th. But then the pandemic hit, and I mean, the whole world just went crazy. So
Hmm.
I actually took a break from studying for probably 8 months or so. Um, for one, just because they kept extending deadlines for tax season, and so I was working longer than I wanted to, and everybody was, and it was just a crazy time. So I didn't study. Hindsight, that would have been a perfect time to study because there wasn't a whole lot going on in really anybody's life. So
Yeah.
part of me wishes I would have, but like I said, the
Except
world was
you couldn't
crazy.
get test dates for like the
That's
first
true.
yeah, so it's kind of, yeah, it would have been nice, but there were a lot of people that couldn't get a test date, or you would have one and study
Mhm.
for the 2 months and get up to it, and it'd be canceled or moved indefinitely. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
exactly.
don't feel
No,
too
that's a
bad
good
about it.
point.
Yeah.
No, I try not to beat myself up, and
Yeah.
I mean, I finished, so I feel good about that. But so, and then I'd say I think like October I started up again in 2020. I think I took audit around that time. I didn't end up passing it. I think I was closer. I was much closer than I was on FAR, and I kind of just stuck with audit. And then before I knew it, tax season was already coming around again, and I'm working 60, 70-hour weeks. So I just found it hard to study, and I didn't want to burn out. So I didn't prioritize it as much as I could have. I probably said yes to too many things that were a distraction, and just, yeah, I just wasn't, my heart wasn't fully in it at the time.
Hmm.
But I did try some more of the study tactics, and I found them to be much more helpful. And then I think, so I went through tax season in 21 again. That deadline got extended, so we went into May of that year, and then hit the books right away in May of 21. I think I'd gotten a 73 on audit, and then I took it again shortly after, got a 74, and then I bagged audit basically and I started to study reg, just one that I basically knew I could pass. And
Hmm.
so I studied reg in October and November of 21, and I passed that first try. So I was in the books. And that's kind of when that's when I was like, all right, I have 18 months to get this thing done. So I started to dedicate a lot more time to it. And just, I mean, I listened to podcasts, I listened to your podcast. I just kept looking for methods of studying that would work for me. And it was pretty wild because I think I took 12 tests in total. Two of them I passed the first try. I think audit I took 6 times maybe, but I passed reg in November of 21, and then I think I passed FAR in like August of 22, and then I passed audit a couple months later, and then I passed BEC at the end of December. So I mean, once things started to click and I got that confidence,
Yeah.
yeah, it just rolled, you know?
Okay. Um, so going back to like your first attempt on FAR, you would just go into, your review course, try to watch the video, read the chapter, just do everything to mark it off, 100%.
Hmm.
But you felt like it wasn't nothing, you weren't really learning that much. And then when you feel like your study process was like really nailed down, what was your process each day at that point compared to that first time?
So I stopped digging into each lesson, um, like as in depth. I started to look at the study questions a lot more. And that was my main method of studying. I'd study simulations every now and then just to kind of build my confidence there. But I would say in the morning, I'd get up and I'd try to get through, I don't know, 50 questions. And then if there was something I wasn't understanding, I'd jot down notes and I'd just keep powering through those questions. And then if there was a topic I was having trouble with, I'd go back to my software and I'd really focus more on that section. And then I'd go and I'd just do more questions. So I basically just did multiple choice questions. And I think even just reading through the questions and understanding, I mean, just how they ask questions,
Hmm.
because it's so different from anything else. I mean, I feel like it goes against everything we were taught in English. Like everything's a run on sentence, everything's trying to trick you, you know? So I was just,
Yeah.
I was just trying to get used to that language and kind of had to rewire my brain in a sense to understand what they're asking of me. Because come test day, I mean, you don't have time to think through everything, you know, you just kind of react and hope you have enough knowledge to pass. So, yeah, I'd say multiple choice and then simulations every now and audio
Okay.
notes and yeah, yeah, just driving the points home.
So when you would sit down in front of your review course to like do a main study session, it would mostly be MCQs and sims, and then throughout the rest of the day, the audio notes as it made sense when you were driving
Hmm.
or working out, stuff like that. Yeah, you made a really good point. The I talk about that in the pro videos a lot, is the context of questions, and then like answering the questions is like a skill. Like you can get good at
Yeah.
MCQs specifically. You can read the whole chapter or watch the video lecture, even to the point where you feel like you understand it really well. But then you go to the questions and it's a different thing, even if you understood the video. So you're still going to have to struggle through the questions or just learn how the questions work for every topic.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And now that it's coming back to me a little bit, I was still using Wiley some, and instead of going through each lesson, watching a video, reading all the script, um, answering true or false, whatever flashcards, I would just scroll straight to the bottom and hit the questions first thing. And then if there was something I wasn't getting in the questions, I'd go back through the lesson. So, I mean, I say I passed 3 tests in probably a matter of 3 or not 3, but in 5 or 6 months. But I
Mhm.
mean, this is because of the work I put in the 3 years prior to getting that base knowledge. But then it was so easy to build on that base knowledge once I kind of found my method of studying, which was just looking at questions over and over again. And yeah, just getting comfortable with them and reading descriptions and understanding if I thought it was this answer, understanding why it wasn't this answer. And yeah, I just found the MCQs to be really helpful. And then, like I said, I'd listen to the audio notes because I'd forget about something. I'd listen to them and then it would just remind me of a point, and then it would help me more with the questions, you know. And I just found it that was my cycle, and that's what really worked for me.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a perfect, explanation. That's basically the general approach that's in our, pro videos is, yeah, you go through the questions for a lesson. For a lot of lessons, you'll learn, like, what you need to from the questions, but when you
Yeah.
can't, you go a little bit deeper. You might watch the video lecture or find just what you need in the chapter. Um, Sims on the weekends.
Yeah.
That's, in a nutshell, that's basically the whole thing. So, just for the benefit of people who listen to this, um, when you're going through the MCQs for a lesson, like if it's a calculation based question, what was your actual process? Like if you didn't know it, I'm guessing you would submit it, look at the
Mm.
solution, try to understand it, and then would you reperform it? Or what was your actual process from learning from the questions?
So if it was a calculation and I didn't understand it at the time, I think I'd try to calculate something and just give an educated guess. I mean, I'd always try to think like I'm sitting there at the test on test day, like I can't Google anything, I can't look up anything, you know, I can't like flip through a book and try to find the solution. So I would I would try to struggle through it, and if nothing was even close, then I'd pretty much take an educated guess at that point. And then yes, I'd click submit, and then I'd spend maybe 5 minutes going through the solution trying to understand why why the answer is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's basically how you would do it. Um, and then what about the Sims? When you would work on the Sims, would you just kind of do the same thing, essentially deconstruct them and kind of reverse engineer the solution to learn how, just learn from the sim?
Yeah, exactly. Just if it was something I completely didn't understand, just suffer through it, get through it, give it the best I got, and sometimes I'd surprise myself. Um, but yeah, just reverse engineer it. And then, I mean, there were times where I'd go through it multiple times just to drive the answer home, you know, just almost as a confidence booster too, because I think I found one of the biggest areas I struggled is I didn't do well on that very first test I took. And I thought this was an impossible task. Um, but once I started to change my mindset more and just, I don't know, almost feed myself confidence, then
Mhm.
I found things just started to click, you know, and I'd go into a test and I'd walk out not feeling great, but I don't know, I would pass. So it was
Yeah.
working because I mean, like I said, I had a 73 and a 74 on audit. I think I had one more 74 out of the 6 times I took audit. And I I knew I was right there, but I just had
Hmm.
to I think I walked into tests feeling like, "Oh, yeah, I could fail," you know? And I think when I started to do well, I'd walk in and say, "Yeah, I got this. I'm not gonna get a 95, but I'm gonna pass," you know? And
Hmm.
yeah, I'd say it's as much of a mental game as anything.
Yeah. And it probably, a lot of that confidence came from, the two differences in your study approach. Like
Mhm.
your first attempt or your first year or so, like you said, you're putting in time, but you just kind of had a sense that it wasn't really resonating or like working. And so, it's hard to feel confident, but once you're starting to go through the questions and like every hour you put in is, uh, you know, you, you're really like learning stuff from every hour you spend
Yeah.
studying. You start to feel like, okay, I know this, I know the material.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's exactly it.
Did you have a note taking process, or did you use flashcards or any form of kind of putting things you struggled to understand on paper somehow?
Yeah, so I'd I'd go through questions, and if there was something that was just foreign to me or something I kept missing over and over again, I think I would part of the process was I'd write out the question and then write out the solution just because I find writing really helpful for me in learning. I didn't really use flashcards. I had a buddy who did, and that really worked for him, but he would write out his own flashcards and I think go over them every day. But I would just write out all all the topics I was struggling with and jot down notes on those topics. And then as part of the review process, I'd read through those notes every couple of days, just kind of refresh my memory or figure out if I wasn't understanding something in my notes, go and figure out why I wasn't understanding it and then rewrite them basically. So yeah, I'd say I'd go through questions. If I found a recurring topic that I wasn't just getting, then I'd after looking through my notes, I'd see that coming up multiple times. And then that's when I'd realize, yeah, you need to spend more time on this subject and really try to understand it. And that's when I'd go more into the lessons and try to figure out that topic better.
Okay. And then you kind of mentioned it just now, but how much time would you leave for a final review, and what would you do for a final review?
Um, I'd say I left about so I actually tried to time it based on when the results would come out, and that bit me in the butt one time, but I'd try to at least leave a week of review if I set it up that way. So I wanted the results to come out as quickly as possible, after
Yeah.
taking the test. And but I try to give myself a week. And for that review process, I would just hit the multiple choice questions hard. And then I felt like once things started to click, every day was kind of a review for me. And so I can't say I really changed a whole lot the week before the test. I think I'd try to maybe just make sure I was doing well and healthy and that I was active still and just going to bed at a good hour and waking up at a good hour. Cause I found on test day, for one of the reviews, I think I stayed up to like 1 a.m. a couple nights before, and test day was just miserable. I was exhausted and
Hmm.
tried to cram everything, and I just I probably had all the information in my head, but I was not confident on that day. So for review, I'd said I probably did a few more simulations. Um, and then yeah, just continuing to hammer those multiple choice questions. And then I'd read through my notes more frequently.
Okay.
So
Um,
it was a simple process for me once I got it nailed down. And I'd say I cut my study time in half pretty
that
pretty easily.
that was my next question. So yeah, because in your again, when you described your first attempt on FAR, you were studying 4 to 5 hours a day. So I'm guessing if you were working, that's pretty much your every waking minute, right? Work and then studying that
Yeah.
long. Um, so I was going to ask, once you got your process figured out, were you able to scale back on the amount of time studying? And you also mentioned making time to stay healthy? I'm guessing exercising of some form. Like, how did you kind of manage that? Or yeah, just did your study process got more manageable, so you got to have a more normal daily routine?
Yeah, so I really like to have the afternoons to myself. So I try to get up a reasonable time. I mean, ideally it'd be 6, 6:30, but there are mornings where it'd be 7, and I'd basically study for an hour minimum, but try to get 2 hours every single morning. And this was even if there was a day where maybe I wasn't feeling too good, I just tried to do something, even if it was half an hour, 45 minutes. And then
Hmm.
I'd go to work, or weekends I'd spend more time studying, but then I'd get done whatever I needed to get done, typically middle of the day or early afternoon. And then I'd try to reserve the afternoons for myself to make dinner or exercise or do whatever I needed to, just to kind of let my mind reset. And even during that time, I mean, I'd still listen to audio notes at times just because it's easy, and
Hmm.
it doesn't take a whole lot of effort or brain power. Just kind of it's just something repetitive to do. So I'd say morning were my big study blocks. If I had time at lunch during work, I'd knock out a few multiple choice questions. And then if I felt like I didn't get done in the morning what I wanted to get done, then I'd spend at most an hour in the afternoon. But otherwise, like I said, I worked tax season, so I really had to be careful to not burn out between studying and work. Just because it's, as you know, it's not the most enjoyable process. But I will
Yeah.
say, once it's done, it's almost like I've kind of forgot. I've kind of forgotten all the pain and suffering I went through just to get to this point. And looking back, I can't say I wouldn't do it. So I'm glad I did. I suffered through it.
Yeah, I mean, oh, definitely. I mean, once it's done, those those letters stay behind your name, the rest of your career. No one can take it away. So, yeah, it's totally worth doing. Um,
Definitely.
well, yeah, we kind of went through everything that I normally ask. You kind of mentioned on the weekends. I mean, that might be the only other thing. You would just kind of spend a little bit longer, but still try to just get it done first thing so you had the rest of the day.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in tax season, I get up 5:30 every morning, and some mornings try to exercise, go straight to work and spend, I don't know, 10, 11 hours at the office. And so after tax season, I tried to keep that momentum rolling, and I'd get up early and do my best to just hit the books first thing when my mind is fresh and aware, And so yeah, I'd say that was a method that worked really good for me. And if I didn't study at all in tax season though. I think I went through 3 tax seasons during the study process, and I I made sure to not study because I wouldn't have been as effective at work, and I wouldn't have
Hmm.
been as effective studying. So, yeah, that
Yeah.
that was my big thing. So if there's anybody out there who does taxes and works in tax season, I'd say that worked pretty well for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a good point. Yeah. If you're just burnt out completely, you can't do either one very effectively. So,
Exactly.
okay. Well, the last question I always ask is even if it's stuff we already covered, what would be your top 3 tips for people still trying to figure out their own study process?
Oh, I'd say number 1, just keep at it because that's what I did. And um, thankfully, I'm stubborn enough and started to figure it out eventually. I'd say 2, believe in yourself because yes, it's really hard, but I mean, I think if you stick with anything long enough and you start to figure it out, and you can absolutely do it. And if you put the time into it, the information's there, but you just have to believe in yourself. And then 3, I'd say just take care of yourself too, because it feels like forever, but it's also a short process in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah, I'd say just take care of your health, take care of your sleep, take care of your close relationships. Um, yeah, and it's gonna be all right.
Yeah. That is a big thing, that a lot of people don't think about, but once you get a few months into it and you're just really, you know, it can't just be your whole life's work and then study. Like, you have to figure out, I mean, basically you have to kind of structure your whole day to kind of allow the study time and still have time to just have a complete mental break from work and study. That really is a big point. It's like, it's got to be sustainable, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to be on the call. People find these really valuable. It was awesome to meet you, hear your story firsthand, and congrats on being done.
Thanks, Nate. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So that was the interview with Brandon. Hopefully you found that very helpful and informative and motivating. And if you did, please take a second to share this interview or the podcast in general with anyone you know who's also working on their CPA exams. These interviews are easily the most helpful free resource available anywhere for figuring out your own CPA study process. Because, of course, your failure or success on the CPA exams comes down to the effectiveness of your daily study process. Also, it would be great if you could take a second or take a few minutes, leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast app, wherever you're listening to this, but specifically Apple Podcasts. And that just really helps, of course, with the algorithm and bumping us up the listings, helping other people find these podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube, do the normal YouTube things that help in the YouTube algorithm, like liking it, sharing it, leaving a comment. Leave a comment about one takeaway you got from this interview. So thank you for watching or listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.